Get this. In Texas, you could get a ticket for riding your horse at night without taillights. Meanwhile, driving a car with no windshield at all. Totally legal. Sounds completely backward, right? One feels like a setup for a bad joke, and the other is just a great way to eat bugs. But there's a twisted logic behind both of these laws. And to find it, we have to rewind to a Texas of dusty trails and the very first cars. First, let's talk about tricking out your horse. The horse taillight rule comes from the Texas Transportation Code, which basically says your trusty steed is just a very furry, four-legged vehicle. So when it gets dark, old Buttercup needs to be visible, just like a pickup truck. Why? Well, imagine a time before streetlights. On a pitch-black night, a dark horse on a dark road was basically a stealth mode hazard waiting to clothesline a buggy. Requiring a lamp or a reflector wasn't some silly prank, it was a genuinely smart safety rule to stop people from getting a face full of horse. That 19th century rule just never got erased. Now for the windshield head scratcher. Texas law demands you have working windshield wipers, but an actual windshield. Nah, that's optional. It's like legally requiring you to own a fork, but not a plate. This is because the first cars in the early 1900s were little more than open-air buggies with engines. A windshield was a luxury upgrade, not standard equipment. Lawmakers wrote rules for the parts cars actually had, figuring that if you splurged for a windshield, you'd need wipers to see through the rain. The law just never caught up when windshields became standard, creating this beautiful loophole. Driving with the wind in your hair and the flies in your teeth is perfectly fine, but if you have that glass, the wipers better work. This isn't just about traffic getting weird. A law in Austin once made it illegal to carry wire cutters in your pocket. This wasn't to stop a rash of high-tech burglaries. It was a direct result of the awesome-sounding fence-cutting wars of the 1880s. When open-range ranchers started clashing violently with landowners stringing up this new invention called barbed wire, things got messy. So Texas outlawed the weapon of choice, the humble wire cutter. Once the feud died down, the reason for the law vanished, leaving behind just another strange rule for the books. So do you really need to install a brake light on your horse's hindquarters? Probably not. These laws are just historical footnotes now. They weren't written to be weird. They were written for a Texas that simply doesn't exist anymore. The taillight was for safety on roads lit only by the moon. The wiper rule was for cars that were still optional, and the wire cutter ban was an attempt to keep the peace on the frontier. What seems totally absurd to us today was just a logical solution to the problems of yesterday.